Everyone, my name is Kyra Daniels, and I am currently employed by the 13th Judicial District Probation Department of Logan County here in Sterling, Colorado. Our vision is to excel in services locally, to lead in practices nationally. The Division of Probation Services mission reads, DPS collaborates with probation departments, courts, and stakeholders to facilitate system improvement. We leverage resources, promote learning and skill development, and provide customer service to improve knowledge, research application, and probation effectiveness. Colorado has found a probation statement of common ground that is committed to public safety, victim and community reparation through offender accountability, skill and competency development, and services to the community of Colorado. Our direct office experiences turnover because of location. After observing leadership and recently discussing with the current probation officer that is transferring, I'm confident that location is the main reason people are leaving. Hiring has been an issue that is a lengthy process because applicants are not applying due to the location and pay. Where the focus needs to be is on our lowered morale as the officers have been working understaffed for over a year. Leadership must remember to focus on what they can control, and that is motivating and developing the current committed staff. As I discussed, our issue at hand is that higher turnover has resulted in lowered morale. Leadership is going to focus on what they can control, which is reminding the team of our shared vision, inspiring, developing effective teamwork and communication. Having certain traits, characteristics, and approach are large components of effective leadership. Our supervisor, Lindy, seems to always have the right words at the right time. Lindy would describe her leadership style as a mix of participative and transformative styles. Transformational leaders support followers through idealized influence, inspirational motivation, intellectual stimulation, and creativity and individualized consideration. Participative leaders value the team's thoughts and ideas and ensure that they are part of the decision-making process. This is something Lindy has never failed to do. She involves us highly in the hiring process, so we get to see how the candidates, how they complete a role play with a big client, so we can see how well they would fit into the style of communication we have and how innovative they are with handling clients. After those role plays in the hiring process, we all have a group meeting and discuss our thoughts, our concerns, and take a vote of who we think should fit for the team. I would also consider Lindy to have an authentic leadership style. This approach demonstrates leadership through transparent and ethical communication with followers. And leaders also require competence in technical, human, and conceptual skills, along with the ability to select the right leadership approach at the right time, according to the needs of the followers and the given situation. Lindy acts as an effective leader through a highly developed level of emotional intelligence. She has a strong ability to read and understand her own emotions as well as the emotions of others. Venera observed that CEOs are often hired for their intellect and expertise, but are popularly fired for a lack of emotional intelligence, indicating that emotional intelligence skills are extremely important to the success of leaders. Human relation management theory reminds us that humans have numerous needs that must be catered to that drive workplace. Sorry, I lost my place for a moment. Human relations management theory reminds us that humans have numerous needs that must be catered to that drive workplace productivity. Employees feel the need feel they need monetary incentives during increased workloads, more recognitions of efforts, and more innovation and motivation. This could be a positive in discovering a solution to our problem. The negative for our issue is that we don't control the money. That is out of our power. The state decides what we do with our budget and where it goes. So as leadership must also be innovative, we have to think of other ways to offer incentives to the employees. By Lindy using her emotional intelligence skills, she can keep existing relationships intact while navigating the conflict. She will be able to understand our emotions during this time, and she can also set the example by controlling her own emotions. So ethics and values of an organization have a strong impact on the culture and how things are done. Regarding probation, we hold very sturdy traditional ethics and values. Our jobs are guided by law and statute, but we do have our own values that we've gathered as a team. Our top 5 include professionalism, integrity, family, humor, and respect. When the ethics and values of the leader and organizational members align with the ethics and values of the organization, all team members tend to work harmoniously toward organizational goals. However, when there's conflict between individual ethics and values of the leaders of the organization, all team members impacted by the conflict will experience stress and uncertainty. So to remind you, our shared vision is to excel in services locally, to lead in practices, so I should say nationally. Okay, I took a moment to fix that. To lead in practices nationally. Commitment to public safety through offender accountability, skill, and competency development. So our mission is to help clients see their potential for change and realize their goals in life. So we offer resources and innovative, creative ways to get them there and see that potential. So how this comes into play with our issue at hand, we currently hold the highest success rate of the state. We have an 80% success rate for our successful terminations of clients. But when we're suffering through lowered morale, we're having higher caseloads, we're not as motivated, and also not being as innovative. So it could potentially harm our success rate. Legally, our issues are again money. We don't control that, and we can't go over the law. The state tells us what to do. Ethically, we also cannot ask POs to take extra work home to complete. We keep it 9 to 5. We value our work-life balance, and the leaders have always been supportive of that. So the impact of communication on the issue. Leadership should always consider the receiver, how the message will be received, and what they desire them to receive from the message. So when we have our monthly meetings, leadership tries to remind us that we're all in this together. And they try to convey a message of support and not saying, hey, you have to take on more work, so it doesn't affect the POs negatively. A leader should remain vigilant. Externally facing communication, such as media release, and handling internally facing communication, like change-related memos. So again, being aware and considerate of how you're conveying your message through email. It can be very tricky. Typically, that's how we learn about new announcements through the state, new policies. So there isn't too much emotional connection in those. Media is also very tricky. We do get notifications informing us of what not to say to media, to who to direct it to. But we're also reminded to always act as the example. in and outside of work. We have to be that example for the community and always be professional. Another communication strategy that leaders should consider is the importance of being vigilant. For example, if a leader needs to send a message in which employees are notified of organizational change, leaders should consider how it may affect the emotions of the employee, and they should incorporate reassuring words repeatedly through the message. There is potential for leaders to pay more attention to externally facing communications, especially those related to crisis communications. Whenever there is, a serious case, such as if there were murder, we're always kept in the loop of what you can and cannot release. They convey the importance. Internal communication is extremely important as well, because they guide the daily work of employees. They articulate the mission, vision, and goals of the organization, and they can influence the employee's behavior, motivation, and psychological ownership in the company. Communication faces the largest struggle with the current issue at hand. Open communication has never faltered as a strength of Lindy's. However, we have to be aware of lack of transparency or routine and how often we are communicating. There can be a sense of tension during these times if management is having more meetings and we don't feel that they are conveying all the information to us. So Lindy will need to communicate, more praise and recognition also during this time. And there is a connection that is lacking regarding asking the members how they are and how they're balancing their workloads and what leadership can do to help. I will say the positive for communication, besides having open communication at all times, whenever presented with an issue, the supervisor always offers her ideas or asks us what we think is the best way to handle it. She supports her participative style with allowing us to resolve issues through discussion and teamwork. Conflict resolution on a higher level, meaning court and state, can take more time and is more in depth. So patience is key, but it can be hard when we have lowered morale. And we are not a part of meetings, but we are allowed to give input to leadership and be kept in the loop. So emotional intelligence, I introduced this a little bit to give an assessment of Lindy's emotional intelligence skills. I think she does a great job controlling her self-awareness, self-regulation. She is always professional. She may have some jokes with us because humor is a value, but she knows how to remain professional. She always tries to be empathetic, leaves door open for communication, and has solid social skills. She listens to our concerns and validates them. She has taken on higher workloads during turnover and will tell anyone she does not expect us to do anything that she would not do herself. Areas for growth, just because of the lowered communication with lowered morale, she should turn to us to encourage more talking, just develop more of our social skills. And this is a time to also be to increase empathy, because there is a lot going on and there's a lot of lowered motivation. The greatest team leaders are multipliers that can amplify strengths, skills, and the voices of others. They do not need to be experts in their field and recognize that group contribution is powerful. This just ties back to Lindy's belief in participative leadership style. Here, I wanted to show a picture of my team. This here is Lindy, our supervisor, and this is just a great reminder how supportive we are as a team and how great she does leading us. And I'll hear how happy we are. A compelling vision paired with employee engagement can lead to lower burnout, reduce tensions, and increase employee satisfaction. So conflict resolution, how do we figure out a way to resolve these conflicts or conflicts that will come up as we have higher tensions? The 5 behavior model suggests that you should always have trust, conflict, commitment, accountability, and results. So these are all behaviors that a high-performing team will have. A team's progression, commitment, accountability, and results depends on a solid foundation of the trust and expression of disagreement. One of the core elements of a healthy team is the ability of team members to express disagreement with others respectfully and in a space that supports and reinforces these behaviors. So with that is functional conflict. If you have all these 5 behaviors, you can get through functional conflict, which is a healthy tension that produces positive outcomes, meaning the conflict produced an outcome that was not present before the conflict, but is better than the situation before the conflict. To achieve functional conflict, the leader should ensure a culture that has room for growth and has the offerings of diverse ideas and recommendations. When making any changes in an organization, the first step is to identify what needs to be changed. Next is to implement the change, and then finally reinforce the change. This is when leadership, analyzes where we're at, where the progress has been made, and what may need to be changed to make sure this is an everlasting change. Avoiding resistance to change, a leader should utilize emotional intelligence skills, make sure to find employee strengths and align for change. And in the midst of chaos and uncertainties of change, employees often look to leaders for information, assurance, and support. So that's being there for us, always encouraging us and asking how they can help in building us up. A popular change management model from Lewin is most well-known and effective is the unfreeze, implement, and refreeze model. In the course, we were asked to take a simulation about Plymouth Corporation. So we acted as one of the CEOs. We were handling a crisis communication in which there was an outbreak. I learned a lot from this simulation. It was really cool. I learned most importantly when handling crisis communication, you should always have empathy and just provide the facts. If you don't know something, it's important to just say, I don't know. You don't want to steer anyone in the wrong direction, and you don't want to make any false promises that you can't be kept. Also, when having communication, you should consider all involved, stakeholders, employees, the public. So there's really a lot to think about, and it's important to have a strong team that's on the same page. In the simulation, we were also asked to develop 10 key leadership actions for change, and I took away 5 of them that could be utilized for this issue at hand. The first being communication. I've said this a few times, communication is key in a lot of issues within organizations, and is so important to make sure that there's effective communication. Second is group discussion. This kind of relates to the participative leadership style. We want not only participation when making decisions, but we want to remain informed. We also want group discussions routinely to build team connections, relationships, and we want to increase innovation, right? So this is a time when we can share success stories with each other, really get ideas going to help clients, and to just motivate ourselves again. Third was to discover incentives and compensation possibilities. So in the simulation, this was related to people that had maybe became sick or had our products. Relating it to the issue at hand would be, what can we do to drive motivation? Can we possibly offer any compensations for extra time, extra caseload, other than monetary values? Fourth key action is evaluate policies and procedures. Fifth is to implement a plan for future short staffing or lowered morale. So what are we going to do when this happens again? We know that we lose people because of location, so we must be prepared for it to happen again. One of my takeaways from the simulation was to listen carefully, be honest and open, be aware of body language, and communicate key messages effectively. I loved this point because it's also something we use for clients, especially body language. You have to understand if people are being, if they're shutting down, if they're open to learning, if they're open to communicating, and to really effectively get your message across. Let's go back one. I mentioned the importance of innovation in probation. So let's talk about the recommendations for leading through innovation. Ensure communication framework for change and innovation are done in a positive and constructive way. To do this, we need to first guard against external distractions from innovation. This is already great. We have, our office's neutral colors. We do change a venue for meetings, so we're all in a big space all together. Next is to have no limitations to innovation, oversee possible innovations for organization, and finally prevent isolation. Our leadership is excellent with encouraging that we talk, whether it be work or making those further connections. We need to know our team and understand how they work so that we can become a great team. Next is to share success stories of innovation. So I would like our monthly meetings to also have this time where we share, what ideas are working for us? What are we using with clients that's different from the next person? So I would like to share one of our success stories we recently shared at our all staff meeting. So this is a story from one of our supervisors. This was from a few years ago, but really inspiring. He says, I had a female juvenile, 16 years old. She struggled with feeling accepted, wanted, and had very low self-worth. She felt that everyone was out to get her and didn't trust that anyone had her back. She came from a rough family. Her dad passed away when she was young. Her mom struggled with her own life, and her other siblings were in and out of the justice system themselves. At the end of a very long probation term, I contacted all the adults in her life that helped her to get where she was. Teachers, therapists, past officers, etc. I sent them a request to write down 5 qualities that they respected of this individual. I took all those answers and made them into a word art collage. I took that and framed it for her. Towards her last days under supervision, I presented it to her. Her family being involved in the system, we had the chance to visit her home a few years later. And during one of those visits, she was there and showed me where she had hung up this collage for her to see every day since then. So it was inspiring, right? This client successfully termed, she kept this reminder, and she stayed out of the system. And making that collage, it was an innovative idea, right? Nobody had thought to do that before. Going above and beyond, placing that in a frame. The client didn't expect it, and it was really touching. All right, so we talked about the issue at hand. We are suffering with lowered morale. We discussed an analysis of the problem through the competencies of leadership, elements of organizational behavior that contribute to the problem, ethical and legal considerations, the impact of communication on the issue, the assessment of the leader's level of EI skills, elements of conflict resolution, changes needed or change leadership. I gave you a little brief discussion about the Plymouth Corporation simulation, what I took away from it, and my ideas for leading through innovation. I really think that working with leadership through this process has helped us see how we can remain creative within our bounds, right? We can't offer more money, but there are ways to still motivate us with little things, little recognition, little fun team building skills, reminders that, we are recognized, we are appreciated, and we will get through this.